everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story, and I am going to do a quick walkthrough of this lovely little Lenormand deck called the Seventh Sphere Lenormand, and it is by the company Labyrinthos. www.labyrinthos.co. I'll put a link to that in the description box. Now, I have their Golden Thread tarot. I haven't done a walkthrough of this yet. I need to. It's very Rider-Waite Smith, but it's also pretty cool. I have to say, it's like being in a Zelda game. That's really, it has that old school Zelda feel to it, which is, you know, pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. But I'm just bringing this out to show you why. One of the things that I adore and why I would never get rid of this deck is because the shuffling, it's like plastic cardstock, and the shuffling is really amazing. It's like so, other than my Victorian Romantic Russian version cardstock, this is probably the best visceral shuffling experience. Now, I love, for overhand shuffling, I like a good linen, raw linen cardstock, such as the Neoclassico or the Fina della Torre, that kind of rough linen, rough watercolor paper shushing. So for overhand shuffling, that's amazing. But for riffle shuffling, this, you can't get any better than this. It's just amazing. So I love it. It literally gives me goosebumps, chills in the best possible way. So this is, again, their tarot deck. Now, they do have another tarot deck that is a lighter colored. There's some reason why it didn't overly appeal to me. I can't remember. But they do have another tarot deck as well. But they did recently put out a Lenormand deck. Now, I have to admit, you know, I'm going to put my bias out, or my issue out, right at the very get-go. Because it wasn't really an issue of the company so much as it was an issue with my expectations. Well, it is a little bit in terms of the company, and this is a little bit of a heads up to people, deck creators, I think. The images on the website and the images that I have seen on Instagram and things look a lot bolder. And I think that that's because of the way that cameras work, and the way that we can, obviously, there's filters and tweaking and things of that nature. And the images that I purchased the deck off of, or I felt like I saw seemed much more bold in color. And so my thinking was, I'm getting ready to do a Lenormand class, and I'm going to be obviously using my Lenormand deck, but I thought, oh, this will be the perfect sort of traditional image, not traditional, but, you know, just have regular images in it to kind of go along with my deck. That's visually, I thought, oh, that will be a nice, I'm going to kind of treat myself, because it's not a cheap Lenormand deck, but it's beautifully constructed, so I'm not complaining about the cost. But my headspace was, oh, it would be lovely to have sort of a modern, clean deck that would kind of look like, from what I had seen, I thought would be a beautiful balance with the boldness that is the color of my Lenormand deck. So when I first got this a few days ago, I was actually a little disappointed. And again, it's not because of the deck, it's because of my expectations and the way that it had been photographed. And you can see that it is much a different color palette, which, again, I wasn't looking for the exact same color palette, but it's hazy. There is a haze over the top of it, which is really lovely in a way, but it's not what I expected. So that the blacks are never quite black. The moon card was a good one, because in the images that I had seen, the back looked almost black, you know, like a dark black sky. And yet, in person, it's very gray. It doesn't look black. I mean, you get a little bit darker more in the mountains, but it looks more gray. It's almost like there's a haze filter over it. And I'm sure that's what the intention was, right? It just didn't translate into the images. And because it's not a cheap deck, there was that moment of, oh, that's that does not look anything, you know, that's not going to, you know, again, not that that has to stand up to this, but that was what was in my head. And so then when I first saw it, I was like, oh, you know, that's really different than what I was looking for. But I'm growing. I've used it now a few times. It reads really beautifully. I've done some readings for others as well as myself. Just tonight, one for myself. It looks really beautiful with the Ostara, even though there is a boldness in the gloss of the Ostara. And the other thing that I thought it might be really beautiful with, like, let's just take a look and see. I might be right, I might be wrong. I thought it, oh yeah, see, see, look at that. I mean, that's going to look absolutely stunning with the Star Child Tarot. And these, you know, you say to yourself, Kelly, why do you care? These things do matter to me because I do mix readings a lot. So I do, I'm going to leave this out and look at it together once. Once I'm done doing the quick walkthrough. So oh, did I already shuffle it? I don't think so. But it does matter. I like to do 3 voices readings. I do like there to be some cohesiveness. Not matchy-matchy, well, some matchy-matchy, but at least a cohesiveness in the decks that I use together. So I do think of these things. So I've had to have a few days of kind of coming to change my, you know, pull my expectations out of the situation. Say it's not really the fault of the deck because it's absolutely beautiful. It just wasn't what I was expecting to get. So let's move on from that. So I just want to get that out of the way. So I'm not going to try not to mention it too much more, except for where it might be just completely pertinent. The box is amazing. It is it's like a mass market box you would get from US Games. I love it. I think there's a magnet in here, and it definitely, it's because it's got a little bit of a lip, but it's not like a big one, but it closes really nice. It's really beautiful. It's got this sort of rose gold, 7 sphere, 7-pointed star on the front of it, which is also on the back of the deck. It's just beautiful. 7th sphere Lenormand. It says, see the magic in the mundane. The veil between this realm and the divine lies only in our perception. And then, of course, 36 cards and companion app. So there isn't a guidebook that comes with it, but there is an app. I have to say that I picked the app up while I was waiting. I think I got it when I wanted to look through the images again in order to kind of look through the images. It's a little bit, it doesn't navigate as well as I thought. This is a real modern company. I know there's a lot of app things surrounding this particular deck. I don't know if for the other tarot deck they have, but it was a little bit wonky to navigate, I felt. You couldn't, like, once you opened one up, it was hard to get the cards to move back and forth, and it's free. I mean, you can't really complain. It's a free app, but I didn't find it to be overly usable, but I was just kind of checking out. But there is, so they do have sort of the basic meanings, and probably I should show that to you. I don't know how well this is going to show up. I think sometimes it helps to lower the lighting. So you have the 7th sphere, and you can kind of look at some lessons on how to read with pairs and things of that nature. But if you just want to look at the cards, moving this is really strange. It doesn't scroll, and then it kind of skips sometimes. It just was, I found it very odd to use, and you do get a little bit of a kind of a little statement here, but when you click on it, you can then get some keywords and a little bit of a longer, along with the corresponding playing card, whether or not this overall feeling of positive and negative, and its timing, which is nice. But then you can't then scroll to the next card. You have to get out, try. So if I wanted to get to that, worked that time, but it doesn't always seem to want to scroll the way I want it, and so sometimes then it skips to other ones. So I just didn't find it overly in the movement very intuitive, but it's beautiful and clean and modern looking, and so you do have that to get your meanings versus a little white book, but I think it's really pretty. So we have that instead of a guidebook. And in the inside we have 7 spheres encircles our own, each an emanation of the one before. The further we go, the more perfect they are, the more malleable they render in your hands. And so you have all the players, these little echoes of your world. How will you make these shadows dance? What reflections will you see? And when will you discover that vision and flesh create one truth? I feel like if Lenormand was a person and reading this about themselves, they would giggle a little bit. I feel like Lenormand is so practical auntie and get in there and da 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 da. I feel like Lenormand would read that about themselves and say, okay, all right, let's get on to reading. I do love these little cute, I do love this type of skull. I think they're adorable. This kind of reminds me of the skulls that are in the Idiosyncra deck. And this deck in general reminds me of the Idiosyncra Tarot and Oracle, although again, the boldness I think is more in that one and not this haziness that's here. But in terms of art style, it reminds me of those decks quite a bit. But the box, amazing, hands down, gorgeous, absolutely love it. I didn't pull the tarot, but I just pulled the, this is the Amethyst Oracle, which is a deck that you can still get. And you can see it has that sort of vector graphics look to it. This is kind of, I think, in terms of coloration, what I was thinking this would be, where this has that same vector graphics, but it's got that sort of haze like with the Star Child, that kind of mistiness that you're kind of, but in terms of, it's got that vector graphic style, which I actually quite like. So this is just a compare and contrast, right? Backings are just plain white, and they have a rose gold. I know it may look like gold, but it's really like a rose gold 7-pointed star on the front of it. I'm glad that's all there is. I have to say, with the way that my lights are set up, if there's a lot of this on the fronts, I can't read with them because it reflects and it bothers my eyes quite a bit, more than you would think so. So I'm glad that that's all it is, but it's really pretty. Quite like it. It is the same. Okay, let me compare. It feels to me like the same exact sort of special plastic cardstock, and I love it. I will say I was quite saddened, and I can't do it yet, so we'll wait till the end. But while it riffles really beautiful, it doesn't bridge very, this particular cardstock in this small size doesn't cause a nice bridge, but it does riffle beautifully. So we'll talk about that when I can actually shuffle it. So it's that same beautiful cardstock that I do love the cardstock here. So let's zoom in. And there we have it. So this, this won't take too long. You can see it has an image. It's very clear and beautiful. It has the number in Roman numerals, the name, as well as a playing card association written, as you see a lot of modern deck, as long as it's there somewhere, it doesn't, I quite like that style, obviously. And so that works for me really well. So here we have the rider. The clover. The clover is, I quite like, it has a little bit of a 70s feel to it. I don't know that it entirely matches the rest of the deck, but I do like it. It makes you smile. I mean, that's for sure. Here we have the ship. I love this because, again, Lenormand, you're not reading, oh, look at, okay, this is a ship. It's just starting out on its journey. It's trying to get into the shipping lanes. Like, you don't really read that way at all. In fact, that's a mistake. But I do quite usually you just have a ship sitting there, and this does look like a ship that's getting ready to start on this long journey by getting into this sort of shipping lane here. The only issue is that if, you know, when you're just skimming, it almost looks like a little rocket ship, or it looks like the tower that fell over. But I do like it, and it's got the name right on it, so it's pretty clear. Love the house, love it, love it. I just love it. I love the tree. I have to say, looking in the viewfinder, I like the way it looks in the viewfinder a little bit better. Again, just that there's just that haze over it, and in my viewfinder, it kind of corrects that. So it's probably going to photograph beautifully and video beautifully, which is, you know, that's a plus for somebody who's a professional reader that does mostly video readings, right? Beautiful tree. Just, again, it's that beautiful vector graphic style that's just a little bit softer. You know, so if I found, of course I won't find something similar, but if you look at vector graphics, it's very clean lines. But whereas this does, if you look here, whereas this is solid color, which is very typical for vector graphics, and I quite like this for that illustrative art. But if you look at this deck, there is a lot of gradation that's being used to kind of create depth in the color here, and so there's a little bit more detail than you would often see in vector graphics, but it's really beautiful. That's what gives it its kind of extra beauty and a softness that you don't normally get with vector graphics because of that haze. So there's the tree, the clouds. I love the snake. Love the snake here with, it looks to be a pomegranate instead of an apple. Or that, yeah, I mean, it looks like a pomegranate to me. I don't know. I don't think that it actually addresses the individual images. Wisdom and knowledge. Forbidden truth. Yeah. I mean, it's reading more like an apple, although it kind of looks like a pomegranate to me. So, I never like when it goes to the Garden of Eden immediately with the snake, although it's very appropriate to certainly the time in which Lenormand was brought out. Here we have the coffin with like a lunar moth, which I think is awesome. But again, it's a coffin, it's very clear. Beautiful bouquet. Beautiful scythe. I do like my scythes to have like some wheat in there to some degree, that sense of harvest. I don't feel that harvest, although that could be a harvest moon. Ooh. Whip is a whip is a whip. This looks like teeth to me here. That's the only thing I'm not sure as to what this is down here at the bottom. I would love to see what people think about that because I see it and I think of teeth. Yeah, it doesn't really have, but that's what first time I saw it, I thought it looked like, are those teeth down there? I'm not sure what this is down here. Oh, it's probably oozing paint, isn't it? Or blood that's oozing after being whipped or something. Ooh, they're going full on with the whip. I love the bird card. Look at that. It is so vectory, graphic-y, cute, and sweet. I adore it. Adore the child with the bird on his head. Don't even get me started. Love the fox with the fish in his mouth. He's doing his job. He's doing what he needs to do. He's being smart and wily and doing. I love this card. Everything about it. Fox cards are important. And I love the bear. Look at the bear with her queenly crown. I adore this bear. It can be very hazy, though, to see. I have to say, that the bear almost kind of starts to blend into the background and doesn't quite pop as much as I think that it could have, but it's really pretty. Love the star card. And I love it's kind of above the clouds, getting that clarity. Very similar clouds to the clouds, but then you have the star above it. I think that's just visually, it's really beautiful. Love the stork. Very rarely do you get flying storks, and I love flying storks. It's about change, it's moving, you're moving into new circumstances, and I feel like this stork really, really shows that. Dog, beautiful. Looks very guardian type, doesn't it? Tower, very tall tower. I love the birds. It's just pretty, it's just clean and pretty. garden. Gazebo makes it really clear. Kind of jungly plants. Tropical plants, it seems, around it, but I love the little gazebo. Love the mountain. I mean, it's just really a beautiful deck. Crossroads is really cool, right? There is some, you've got to sort some things out here, figuring out which way you have to go. The mouse card, eating away. I like the skull with the idea of poison and some poisonous mushrooms. That works for me really well. But I just love those types of little skulls. Let's see if I can find one in the, in the Amethyst Oracle. There's just something, that style of skull I just really love. It kind of reminds me of like my little Poe. But I do love that because in my charm casting set, where I have a charm for each Lenormand card, I have a little skull for the mouse card because it's the idea of poison and eating away. So I quite like that. Heart, ring, book. I love the glasses over the book. Letter. This one's probably one of my least favorites. It just kind of, that one to me just really does feel a little bit like a little GIF image. It just kind of was stuck on there. It doesn't really have the same kind of blended feel that you get with the rest of them to me. I don't know. It just kind of feels, that's probably my least favorite of the cards. Now for the man and the woman, and I'm going to read what they talk about here. So here we have the male and the female, but instead of saying man and woman, they do say animus and anima. So let me get that up so that we can take a look at their... They were trying to take that step back right away from male and female, which does get to be a little bit difficult in modern, as a professional readers, modern readers. That's why I stepped completely back from male and female, kind of take the gender out of the situation. Okay, let me open this up. While the original Lenormand card is called man, I wanted to expand the definition of this card to focus on masculinity, all the behaviors and energy typically associated with men, but not necessarily someone who is physically male. This energy can be more logical than emotional, more aggressive than receptive, more physical than spiritual, and more dependent on your own personal cultural experiences. This card can sometimes reference the querent, especially if they have a lot of masculine traits, but it can also refer to someone in the querent's life with those qualities. This person will usually be close to the querent, and so on and so forth. So you can actually use this for the, as I do, you know, I have a querent and a significant card. So this being that sort of active energy person, you know, this represents the querent as their active person in their own life. And this represents that receptive. Who are they receptive to being open? Or again, you can just use it as male and female. So I quite like that kind of attempt to step back. It would have been kind of cool if the people just had been removed and they would have had like a male and female symbol, maybe, that I think would have worked in this deck, like the, you know, the circle, you know, with the lines in the correct direction for male and female. Like, I think that would have worked in this, and would have been pretty cool because you could have, again, just that step just slightly more away by removing the figures. But I do like what they have done here. So, oops, I'm mixing things in. So that's the male and the female. And I love the lilies. I like my lilies to be whitish, and this is whitish. Kind of cream tone, but it's beautiful. Like this, the sun, I felt like it could have been a little brighter. Like I felt like, I don't feel a sense of brightness or sun shining, pulling the whole reading up. Again, I understand that I am quite a color person. You know, this is my sun card. So, you know, the sun functions in Lenormand in a way in which it pulls everything up. And to me, this feels more like a full moon maybe or something. I don't feel that brightness of the sun pulling it up, but it's a pretty image. And certainly when you put it next to the moon, you can see this is night and day. We even have the same exact mountain range here. I don't know if you can see that, but it's the same exact vector, graphics here. They've just gone from night to day. So you can certainly see it in that capacity. And then here we have the key, which I like that we have the keyhole and the key. You know, you put the right key in the right keyhole and things just open up, right? I love that. Love the anchor. Clean, it's an anchor. I like anchor cards like that. I love the fish. I like that there's more than one. I like the sense of movement. I just like the fish. I like the decoy. And then finally, did we miss a star card? Am I missing? Did I have it out of order? No, I think it was over. No, we had that over the top of the mountain range. And here we have our cross. I kind of thought maybe with this modern deck that they would do something a little bit, do something a little bit different than a kind of standard looking cross, but I do like it. I do like the shadow here. I like the little person down here feeling really overwhelmed by this giant cross. So again, it doesn't really matter in the reading of the card, but I do like the imagery there. So, and that would be the very last card. So let me zoom out. I really do love this deck, so I hope that it's not coming across. You know, when I try to do like these kinds of walkthroughs, I'm trying to be objective. These are the things that I see. These are where I might or may not see problems. So you can see it shuffles really well. Oh, that one I got a little bit of shuffle or a little bit of bridge, but the bridge tends to snap back too oops. The bridge tends to snap back too quickly. It's not as satisfying because it's a kind of a short-lived bridge. There it goes a little bit. Maybe it just has to break in a little bit. At first it felt really like it would go thunk, but I think maybe it just needs to break in and maybe not get so close back. It's probably part of plastic. Get a little further out. There we go. Can't cross them too much. People are like, okay, I'm done now. Nope. But I do like this cardstock a lot. I think it's really beautiful. Let's just pull a 9 card and see what it looks like. So there's the beautiful, let's find the woman card. Or you could again choose to pull the man card, the 28th card, as that active energy of Animus. So depending on how you wanted to do that. Of course, he's at the very beginning, which isn't going to be helpful, so we're going to go with this one. I mean, look at how pretty that is. So you could pull a 9 card like this. There's some clouds, some indecision in the future. Not quite sure about the way forward, perhaps with with their finances, the way forward with abundance and finances and sort of money and things of that nature. Maybe a little bit cloudy going ahead. Of course, we did not have any kind of question here, but just kind of seeing that there. Needing to take maybe a more active role in that person's life to balance out the clouds there. We do see that sense of the idea of health, kind of there needs to be a fresh way to look at health situations here, and abundance, new things in that direction. So again, I don't like fake readings because they don't tend to ever really have anything to say, but let's just pull. So you could pull 2 cards on either. Look at that. I mean, like, I will say the Star Child Tarot, just in terms of color and matte-ness, of course, this has a much more photo manipulation, photorealism than the vector graphics, but I think that actually is pretty cool because that does differentiate the two. But then what would you use as oracle cards? I'd have to think about that. Maybe that new deck. Let's just try it. You know, we can play a little bit. we can play a little bit. This is the Universe Has Your Back Oracle. I think, you know, it's got a lot of watercolor tones to it. Look at that. That would look really good. This is the fun, right? People will watch this and be like, what on the earth? But you know what? It's fun. This is part of the collecting aspect. That you don't need to have matchy-matchy decks. But if you've got a little bit of a deck collection, it's fun to say, I wonder what that would go with that. Again, I wouldn't use this probably for a business reading. I probably wouldn't pull these particular decks for a business reading. But look at how, oops, upside down. Visually, that's really beautiful way to do a 3 voices reading, which is a big reading for me. I do a lot of 3 voices readings. Sometimes they're spiritual based. I'm stuck. I didn't even know how to move forward. I need some energy pushing me forward. And I think this is absolutely gorgeous. Combining these 3 decks, I think, works really beautiful. So this is how we play with decks, right? But I will say, all in all, I really do love this. I think it's gorgeous. It's, again, it's not a cheap Lenormand deck. It definitely was one of those treats deck. But I think that once I'm past my initial, I don't want it to be so hazy. It's going to be really, it's a beautiful one. And some of the matte-ness, I think, is actually going to be really great for video. You don't get any glare off of it, and certainly it's safe to take places because of this wonderful plastic cardstock. I feel like you could wipe these off on, not that I want to dump water on them, but I feel like if they got a little bit of damp or something like that, it's not something I would worry about. So I can definitely see situations where I'm out and about that this would be a great one to grab because of that plastic cardstock. So there you have it. This has been a look at and a play with the 7th Sphere Lenormand. I hope that you have enjoyed this and it helps you in some way in determining whether or not this is a deck for you or not.